Just a day after France missed out on the chance of becoming three-time FIFA World Cup champions, French international striker Karim Benzema took to social media and announced his retirement from international football. Now, it might seem like a strange thing to do, but it is in many ways keeping with the kind of contentious relationship that Benzema and the French national team have had, especially during the latter years of his career as his stature grew more and more for his club side Real Madrid. He found himself out in the cold as far as the international team side of things was concerned, and perhaps more gallingly, never really took any of the blame for it, despite the blame for it largely laying at his own feet. So today we are going to look back at Karim Benzema's French career and contrast it with the kind of career that he's had for his club side Real Madrid, and look at why exactly it is that hasn't been the case, that despite being seen as someone of prodigious talent, it just never quite worked out the way it should have for Karim Benzema. First off, let's look at what exactly it is he said when announcing his retirement. He said that I've made the efforts and the mistakes it took to be where I am today, and I'm proud of it. I have written my story and ours is ending. Now, it might seem a bit cryptic to you, but he did also post this whilst wearing the French national team colors. So that's why it was taken as him announcing his international retirement. Sure enough, a host of journalists confirmed exactly that, and that means that this man, Karim Benzema, despite being recalled to the international team in 2021, just about a year later, has said that he doesn't want to be playing for the international team any longer. Now, a quick look at his French career numbers might actually tell the story of a rather complicated time that he's had. Now again, in 97 games, he scored 37 goals, which actually is pretty prolific for international standards. And don't forget that he made his debut all the way back in 2008 at a time when there was a lot of talent in the French national team, just as there is now, but especially true for, of course, the striker position. Don't forget, 2008 was a time when Thierry Henry was still very much operating at the prime of his powers. He wasn't done yet with the national team, and for Benzema to come into that team at that point, make an impact, spoke volumes about the kind of talent he was. He's of course retired 14 years later in 2022, but he actually had a 6-year hiatus from the French national team during that time period, which actually doesn't get counted in his overall career, because really he was suspended and then not considered for selection. Now, why was that the case? Why is it that a player as great and as all-round a striker as Benzema wasn't considered for national selection for the longest of times? The answer lies in a rather sordid story that, if you guys had seen the breaking news update I had done regarding this story, I had dwelled on but not really elaborated on. So in 2014, Benzema was actually found guilty, or he was implicated in the alleged, let's say, blackmailing of one of his former teammates, Mathieu Valbuena. And the thing in question was, of course, that Valbuena had actually had a sex tape which was circulating, and in order to stop that circulation, Valbuena had been met by a bunch of people who had actually demanded money from him. Apparently, Benzema was involved in that entire thing, because one of the people in that circle who was asking Valbuena for money was in fact a mutual friend of both Benzema and Valbuena. So it's a pretty sordid story, as I mentioned. Unfortunately, it was something that he was very much implicated in, and after that found himself out in the cold as far as the French national team was concerned. He was suspended first, then really not even considered for selection. But it just ended up getting worse for him more often, because, well, he really made it worse for himself. During a 2020 live stream, back in the time when the world was just shutting down thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, and people were sort of getting used to what was called the new normal, Benzema had held a live stream on Instagram in which he was asked a question about Olivier Giroud, and rather than actually say anything too complimentary, he actually was very degrading and belittling towards Giroud, where he said that, look, you can't compare Formula 1 to go-karting. Obviously, in this case, go-karting was Giroud and Formula 1 was this man, Karim Benzema himself. Didn't really go down too well with a lot of people, not least because of the fact that Giroud himself had done nothing to deserve being insulted that way, and is by all accounts a model professional, someone who gets along with all of his teammates. Speaks volumes to the fact that Giroud himself was okay with Benzema being recalled to the national team, despite the fact that they were on less than good terms with each other, thanks to comments like that. But that isn't where the controversies end when it comes to Benzema and the national team. Earlier this year, ahead of the FIFA World Cup, he was named in the squad, was expected to be their first choice starting striker, but ended up picking up an injury just before the tournament and was ruled out of it. Now, one of the things that was mooted before the final when France had made it there was that Benzema might very well be available for selection. However, that was then shut down, and Benzema himself put out an Instagram post saying, "I don't care," just ahead of the final, which made it pretty clear what exactly he was referring to. Then there was a news report, or several news reports I may add, which said that Benzema had rejected an invite to be at the 2022 World Cup final as a guest, and apparently that invitation had come not at the behest of France's national team manager Didier Deschamps, but at the behest of France's President Emmanuel Macron. Makes a saucy story seem even more saucy. So if you like all that sauce, you're in the right place. This was one of those stories that had some legs and had many people speculating as to whether or not Benzema would be part of the scheme of things in the future. As it turns out, before anyone else could take that call, he unfortunately took it himself and said, "I'm done with the national team." Now, obviously, this does shine a very unfortunate spotlight on Benzema's international career, which really lies in stark contrast to his club career, because he's been a France outcast for about as long as he's been an international player, but at the same time has established himself as a legend for Real Madrid, and in fact is the winner of the last Ballon d'Or that was awarded by France Football, or the France Football magazine. Don't forget, he is in fact, as I said, the current Ballon d'Or winner, and he won that Ballon d'Or thanks in no small part to his performances that he made for his club team. Remember, Benzema was the key player, in fact, or the key player when Real Madrid ended up claiming the league title last year as well as the Champions League. Benzema was absolutely instrumental to that. You can't take that away from him, and that was why he was given that trophy. But unfortunately for him, the controversies that we were discussing earlier was in fact the reason why his international career didn't quite have or achieve the same heights that most people expected it to, because, well, those controversies really held him back, and unfortunately he can't blame anyone but himself for a lot of those controversies, because even if he was just about being at the wrong place at the wrong time for the Valbuena thing, he could have actually not compared Giroud to go-karting. He could have actually not abandoned or deserted his teammates ahead of the final. And that's it for this particular video. Unfortunately for us, we won't be able to see this man, Karim Benzema, performing for the French national team anymore, which is actually a shame, because as a footballer, really, he's up there with all the greats. He's a very complete striker, very modern striker, someone who a lot of people from future generations can take inspiration from if they are looking for inspiration as a player. However, his personal issues and the controversies that he tends to cause outside of the field impacted his career, and there was no way so more evident than when you look at his French career. It's very much a tale of what could have been and a tale of self-destruction of the highest level. But that's just how I feel. What do you guys think about it? Well, you can let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap that bell icon so that you know when we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Then you can also go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and don't forget to download the AajTak app. Thank you all once again for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Rice. I hope to see you with us as we keep bringing you all of the latest updates from the world of sports. But for now, goodbye.